coming up.
Oh, I love that. What a perfect name. What a perfect way to do that. So Liz is in Indiana, Heather's in Indiana, and then Anna's out on Long Island. So go ahead and say hi.
Yeah.
There's a ton.
Mhm.
And it's funny because I feel like each group that has developed has been a spin-off of a previous group.
Looking to the internet for support and Facebook groups, and I just felt like I wasn't getting any support.
We need a space to be real. And I think that is, I mean, our group gets kind of a bad rap for being like the bad girls.
And the doctor that has been there for the beginning of time, she has always 6 months ago, we went to New York and finally got to meet her in person. But, I feel like I know more about Anna than I do my best friends here in Indiana.
It's
Absolutely.
We, us girls, and then we have Ashley and
We want to invite you to the first annual Munch Bunch Wellness and Rejuvenation Retreat in the Dominican Republic, November 9th through the 12th, 2023. It will be an all-inclusive retreat meant to refuel you, give you a chance to rest, relax, and network with others in our Munch Bunch family. We will also be talking about ways to get out of your own way so you can live your dreams, build your business, and do what you need to do. So check it out. The link is in the description, and the dates are November 9th through the 12th.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Munch Bunch podcast. Kimmy and I are very excited today. It's obviously it's us two, your co-hosts, Megan Vanoy and Kimmy Nishimoto. But we actually have 3 guests on with us today. If you're not watching this, you're hearing this. So we have 3 amazing guests joining us today. The hygienist brains behind the RDH Rant community Facebook group. They have their own podcast. And so we are very excited. We invited them on the show today as a little crossover episode, but also just to talk and celebrate hygienists. As you guys know, Kimmy and I are both hygienists by trade and our careers, and have expanded our careers, podcasters, myofunctional therapists, all sorts of things that we have branched off into. And so we want to celebrate other hygienists who are doing those things as well. So we brought on Heather Kirby and Liz Bortolotti, right?
Yes.
Ooh.
You got it.
Got it. And then Anna Sventura. Did I get yours?
Good. Very good. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. What a perfect name. What a perfect way to do that. So Liz is in Indiana, Heather's in Indiana, and then Anna's out on Long Island. So go ahead and say hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Hi.
And then Heather was the first person on today, you guys. So she is going to pick our affirmator with Kimmy, and then we are going to dive in. So,
Okay, Heather, you just tell me when, and I will stop, and we'll pick the card. Okay.
Okay. When?
Okay. Oh, that was like meant to be. Meant to be. Okay. There's a little light bulb, and the affirmator for this week for Munchie Monday is honoring ideas.
love that.
When an idea comes to me, I honor it by doing my best to bring it into being. Ideas are like children, and I proudly nurture them, knowing they'll grow and develop and eventually make their way out into the world without ever really acknowledging how much time, money, and love I shelled out for them. Hey, whose idea was it to have these kids anyway?
Yeah, that's spot on. This is like a tarot card reading, because that's what I felt like.
Yeah, the affirmators are real and they have real power. So, yeah, and that's kind of why even like we're here, right? Honoring this idea of creating a community, a safe community for hygienists. So it's interesting. Before my good friend Wendy told me about you guys, I had no idea there were so many like Facebook groups out there. Like,
Yeah.
There's a ton. And it's funny because I feel like each group that has developed has been a spin-off of a previous group. Like where maybe this didn't align with how we felt, or, maybe people were too uptight here. So let's develop something different. So each group has, I feel like, its little niche.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's your group's vibe?
Ranting.
Yeah. So when I started RDH Rant, I was like a year out of hygiene school and finding that I didn't love it and feeling very discouraged that I didn't love it. And looking to the internet for support and Facebook groups, and I just felt like I wasn't getting any support, like real nitty-gritty support. A lot of the pages, at least that I were on, were like, we are happy and we're go-lucky and we're robotic and we're Stepford wives and there's nothing wrong with us and this is perfect and fine and you can't be unhappy. And so then that made me feel even worse. I felt like, gosh, I worked so hard to be here and this isn't meant for me. So I don't know. I just got like angry one evening and just was like, you know what? I think in another group I had said something and somebody came at me and was like, you can't talk like that here. That's against the rules. And I'm like, well, I mean, I didn't curse. I didn't say anything bad. I just had said, I'm not happy. And so I'm like, I'm going to start my own.
Yep.
And I had no idea what I was doing. And so I did. And the first people I forced to join were my 14 other classmates. And then Liz and I both are from Indiana, and we went to the same school, and she was my little sister.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated a year before her. And so, yeah, that was like the perfect match.
It was.
Yeah. And so she was like, oh gosh, I'm right there with you. So she was on board from day one. And I don't know, maybe 6 months to a year into it, Anna reached out to me and she's like, hey, do you need help adminning? And I'm like, oh my God, Anna's talking to me. Like I see her in all the other groups. Like Anna's wanting to help me. Oh my gosh. And I thought it was like a joke or something. And I'm like, sure. Okay. And, and she had been in groups and I thought she was admin before, but she said she wasn't, but she knew the ropes better than I did. So, I don't know. The next thing I know, we're 6 years out?
Yeah.
7?
Something like that. Yeah.
And we have 13,000 hygienists.
Wow.
And we verify all the license. I mean, a few people will sneak by, but they usually get weeded out. So then I felt like I was creating a community. And I think that a lot of people don't or misjudge what our group is. And yes, it's about ranting. I want you to come in and be like, oh my gosh, I hate this.
Mm-hmm.
And my patients are PETAs and my boss is horrible. And I just need to get my frustration out and someone who knows and listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt like I didn't have that, which in turn made me feel more isolated.
Mm-hmm.
We need a space to be real. And I think that is, I mean, our group gets kind of a bad rap for being like the bad girls of hygiene or whatever, which if they want to call us that, I will absolutely own that. I think that's awesome.
It's a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We actually
we're
should get that on a t-shirt.
the bad girls of hygiene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I really think that the community is much bigger than that. We support each other, not just with hygiene things. We support each other through, big life events, ups, downs, marriages. Hey, I just had this baby. What the hell do I do with it? I'm a first-time mom. I'm scared to death. How did you guys manage breastfeeding at work? And cheating spouses and
deaths in families.
Deaths in the family, sicknesses of parents and things like that. I mean, it really is a community. And even though it's almost 13,000 members, I feel like the community is really small. in that a lot of us know each other and we meet up, and other people in other areas find each other and they meet up. And it's and we travel to see each other. We just met Anna in person for the first time in 7 years.
Yeah.
We're talking every day.
6 months ago, we went to New York and finally got to meet her in person. But, you know, I feel like I know more about Anna than I do my best friends here in Indiana.
It's
Absolutely.
We us girls, and then we have Ashley and Allie, I want to say Alice, right now, that also help us admin. And we talk every single day. I mean, I don't think there's a day that goes by that we don't have some sort of communication in our little chat. And I feel like I know them better than I do people here. And I feel like
true. As soon as something happens, I run to you guys and I'll be like, oh my God, you know, like you guys are the first to know everything in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our last podcast episode, we realized that none of us have sisters. Me, Anna, and Heather, we don't have sisters. And so like, there's just kind of the sisterhood that developed between us that I think is really special. Heather is the peacekeeper. Anna is definitely the bad sister. And I don't know if I'm just like the middle sister or whatever, even though I'm an oldest. But it's funny because, I mean, sometimes we do bicker like sisters, but, you know, we love each other. We get over it. And I think that the different perspectives that we have really lends a hand to how we run the community, because we always have different points of view on things and we weigh in on how something should be handled.
Yeah. So we've had lots of members that I think just yesterday there was a post and it tagged us, and it just like makes my day. Things like that. They're like, it was a picture of like 4 different or 5 different hygienists. And they're like, hey, we all met through RDH Rant. We all live in the same area. We met up. And if it wasn't for your page, we would have never connected. We wouldn't have this bond and this support system. So we're not just a group. And I think maybe in some other Facebook groups, we get a bad name because they think, oh, they're just like pirates that cuss and rant and rave and complain. And honestly, when we look at our admin little tools box that we have, the least posts are about people complaining and ranting, at least about hygiene. You know, we just have a really good community just for people. And on Facebook and the internet, nothing is ever 100% safe.
No.
But I feel like we try really hard to make it safe. And if we feel like, you know, what we call a mole, you know, someone who's not an RDH sneaks in, or even another hygienist, unfortunately, that might tattletale on somebody's rant, you know, we really try to get to the bottom of it and solve it.
Seriously.
Yeah. You need anything, you hire Anna Ventura, Ace Ventura, because she can find any dirt on anybody on the internet. She is like, wow.
It's funny. I got my identity stolen, and I was like researching and like putting pieces together for like a few days, and then filed a police report. And I gave him everything, and he's looking at it, and he's like, "The hell?" He's like, "I think you missed your calling. I had IP addresses of the guy that
like, what do you need us for? Like, honestly."
He was like, "You missed your calling." He's like, "You did exactly what I would have done. So I'm just going to file this. Thank you for doing my job. Have a great day."
I think it's so interesting, like the weird dynamic of like a hygienist brain is interesting, right? You got you have like the type A personality, the very like by the book.
Yeah.
You guys got the you guys where it's you guys are the bad girls of hygiene, which you would be my vibe too. Like you're real, you're funny, you can joke about things. And then there's also that like the tattletale sort of personality in the hygienist field. Yeah. So I think some of that goes back to like when we were trained, and when doctors would talk to you, you know, they would always be like, never say anything bad about anyone else's dental work. And that was almost like a part of like our ethics class was like, you could never criticize anyone's dental work, even if open margins or the crown's not seated all the way.
Yeah.
What are some like stories that you guys have had about like quote moles?
Oh boy.
Gosh.
We had one ranter who actually got fired because she ranted on the page. Unfortunately, someone screenshot it and sent it to her boss. And she actually ended up getting fired. So she reached out to one of us. We ended up figuring out who it was. I don't remember how. I think we researched the dental office and then figured out this hygienist. I don't know. It was like this whole thing. We ended up figuring it out and booting that person. But unfortunately, I always tell everybody to keep your employer information private on your page because you never know. Like so many people have that as public knowledge. You never know who you're going to piss off on the internet and what they're going to say or send to your employer. So I just feel like it's always best to keep that part private. But yeah, we've had that. We've had, I think, didn't we have someone also reach out to someone's husband or because she was ranting about her, I think it was a boyfriend, that someone reached out to her boyfriend to tell him that, I think she was just saying that, she was kind of attracted to somebody else. I don't remember, but they sent it to her boyfriend.
People
I have a horrible memory.
People need lives. That's really what it boils down to is people need lives. They need to mind their own business. Literally that person posting that does not affect you in any way, shape or form. Why do you have to meddle and get in the middle of it? It's so insane to me.
Like when we first started the group, we didn't check licenses. Heather and I, and when Anna was on board, I'm not sure, we would just kind of look at their Facebook page and see if we could see anything dental related. And then if we saw it, then we would bring them on. We'd approve their what?
I would send private messages.
Oh, that's right.
Saying, hey, are you a dental hygienist? Where are you? And I promise you, from wherever it was, like the very first week we started Rant, and I sent someone a private message, I just got their response.
Are you serious?
So funny. I'm not kidding. Like
7
a few
years
months
later.
ago, I just got their response. Like, yeah, I'm an RDH. Here's my license number. And I'm like,
okay.
Looking at the date. And I'm like, great. Thanks.
So when we had a big problem where I think there was like a hygiene manager for corporate that was in the group and saw something that somebody else had posted, even though this member did not have her who she worked for as public. I think that's when we locked it down. And so every single person who wants to get into Rant now, we go to their licensing board in that state and we check their license to make sure that they are in fact an RDH before they can get in. And that's the way that we keep it the safest, because we have had moles in the past, and it doesn't protect us from the hygienist moles like the bad apples. But it does help from, office managers.
It's just one of those things, but, and I can vouch for somebody coming into the group. Like, I'm not seeing constant just complaining about how horrible life is. It's, it is so much support, it is community, and it is a safe place to vent because, for me, I found myofunctional therapy. So I would be a good bad girl of hygiene too, because I was fired like 3 times in the 7 or 8 years I did hygiene because I started my own myofunctional.
We want to introduce this Thought for Tots course, a parent's guide for toddlers ages 2 to 5 for mini myo. We have Megan and Kimmy going over nasal hygiene, myofunctional exercises, breathing exercises, tongue tie healing protocols, and then we have Jenny June going over sleep hygiene, and Kelsey Baker going over feeding therapy and body work. The course is $297, and the link will be in the description.
Functional therapy practice.
Good for you.
And I just kept saying, okay, well, I'm still going to do this. So too bad. And they're like, okay, we can't work here. And I'm like, okay, bye.
Wow.
Good. Good. See, that's, people don't stick up for themselves.
I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go find another job, and here I am, 7 years later, and I have a 6-figure business, and that's all great. And it was all meant to be. It didn't mean I didn't cry when I got fired, obviously, but, I wish I would have had that group to come in and be like, what's up with this? I'm chasing something I'm so passionate about. I thought my boss was excited about it. I thought my coworkers were excited for me, and now everybody has turned on me. The first dentist was like, well, I don't think you should be allowed to start your own business. And I kind of like checked my pulse, and I was like, well, I think because I'm a human, I can start my own business. But yeah, so that was back in 2016 before like, I think in probably the past 4 or 5 years, 5 seems like a little bit of a stretch, but 4 or 5 years, like myofunctional therapy has become a lot more accepted. And then the other one was someone who got in kind of over their head, like was an associate who ended up buying the practice and didn't know how to be a boss. And that was like a whole different like scenario. Yeah. And then the last one, I was working in a pedo office, and they were like seemingly excited that I was doing myofunctional therapist because they had just started doing tongue tie releases, but they didn't like the fact that I also knew that their tongue tie releases were not being completely done. Well, and I didn't even really like step into that, but I was like, hey, they just try and pull me in and be like, hey, can you just do a post-op on this person real quick? And I'd be like, well, they didn't even do therapy, and that's not what my role is here. Right. And then it was just like this weird, like, well, if you're not going to do more than what your job duties say, and you're not just going to do whatever we say, then we're like not a good fit. And I'm like, you're right, it's not. It's not.
Bye.
Yeah. So the last dentist I worked for was 73 years old. His name was Dr. Gross. Dead serious, the most amazing man like I had ever met. And when I went in, I was a little timid about it because I was like, hey, I do this. Like, are you okay if I talk to patients about this? Because he was into sleep apnea. And he was like, tell him your shit. He seems like you're smarter than me. Great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, as he retired, it was at the point where my practice was kind of like, okay, I can't do both anymore. I'm too busy. So it just kind of worked out. And when I told him, he was like, great, go do it. We love you. Like,
that's awesome.
This is meant to be. So ended on a high note.
Yes. Happily ever after.
Yeah. And I think that your attitude on you and your job and what you bring to the table is what a lot of ranters need. I get a lot of stories of, well, my boss is this and I've just been taking it, and until I got on here and saw you guys and see what everyone else is doing, like I just live in a small little bubble and I was afraid. And then you guys gave me the gumption to stand up for myself. So that I love those stories too.
Yeah. I think what's interesting about the dental hygienist is like we're very organized, but often we're very people pleasy too. So what can make it hard if you don't have that safe place where you can express your feelings, you can vent your frustration in a way where other people understand where you're coming from because they've probably been through it too. Like, that's really important because otherwise a lot of us, we just kind of like take our feelings, shove it down, think that we're ungrateful, think that like, oh, well, it could be so much worse, or I could be working at this office and it'd be so much worse. Yeah, no, I just, all I was going to say is like, I like that you guys have like created that space. So then people that maybe have that tendency to suppress themselves or push down their emotions can actually express them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when I started this job, I was in my first full-time job, which I thought, was great. I'm like happy-go-lucky, bubbly, like I want to save the world and everybody's teeth. And I get offered a job in a really small office with one other hygienist who, and I'm not like saying anything bad about age because the older you get, things aren't old anymore. But she was in her 60s and the office manager was in her 60s and she was the only one up front. And then there was a very salty dental assistant. And then the dentist and I kind of started at the same time. It was a small office, but bought out by a guy who owned a few offices. And it was horrible. It was toxic. And it was the office manager like micromanaging everything I did. And the other hygienist was just like, Profi, and like, let me hold you hostage in my chair while we talk about everything but teeth. And even when she would perio chart. She wouldn't do it right. You know, she just needed to retire like 10 years ago. And here I am like bubbly and new. And then I'm like seeing all these patients that, you know, it's the little meme you see. Where's Debbie? Where's Debbie? Who are you? Where's Debbie? You know? I'm like, well, I'm Heather. I'm new. You know, Debbie left. And then I'm like have to diagnosing them like perio. Like my perio percentage was like 100% almost, you know? And I'm like brand new out of school. They hate me because they're like, oh, you're, you know, they've never been told this. It was awful. And so all of that, and then the office manager and the other hygienist working against me constantly. And the assistant and I became friends, but she was still very, you know, negative. But it was very toxic. And I just was like, why? I can't believe I stayed there for so long. But that's kind of one of the driving forces behind Rant as well. Like, oh my gosh, like, why do people do this? How are you happy doing this?
Yeah.
You know, and I got very lucky that I found a job in my own hometown in a very awesome office with a good name and great doctors. And, you know, now I work for great people and have great coworkers, and I love my job most of the time. You know, I am human. Right. Nobody wants to work for a living. Yeah, we have emotions. Like I come home and drink my dinner sometimes because of, you know, well, maybe, but you know.
No judgment. This is also a no judgment space podcast, so you can. We've all done it.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, you're human. I don't know anybody, no matter where you work, that is 100% happy all the time in their job.
No.
And we are humans too, and I feel like I can be real and Rant, and a lot of people can be real, and I don't know. It's just weird now because since Rant has kind of picked up, and we're doing a podcast now through A Tale of Two Hygienists asked us, and then you know we're kind of doing more things, and then I'm like having to tell my boss, it's like, okay, here's the deal.
The mask has come off. I'm actually Batman.
Like one of my bosses, you know, she's like hardly ever on social media, but my other boss and the associate, you know, they're very, in fact, I sent them a link to your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Oh yeah. And so, you know, I know they're on there. I know they're in all the other groups because I've seen them in there, and I'm like, all right, so maybe I need to kind of get to them and tell them, hey, I have RDH Rant, but it's not what you think or what you hear. Like, please don't fire me.
And you're not allowed in.
Yeah, you're not allowed in. But I like it because they'll come to me like, hey, you know that little group you have? Could you ask them this? Like, hey, could you go ask all your hygienists what they do? Like, I love that. And then I was telling Kimmy before everybody got on that like a year and a half ago, one of my bosses came to me and was like, myofunctional therapy. You got to learn it. I want you to start doing it. And I want you to start like seeing your own patients. And I'm like, wait, what? Huh? What are you talking about? What? So I started looking into it. And then Indiana, we're slow at everything and backwards, but then they passed a law that we could use lasers. So then they kind of got on this whole laser kick. So now we're all laser certified. Thank you, Elaine. But so now we're back to, she goes, okay, we got that under our belt. So she just came to me like 2 weeks ago. She's like, myofunctional therapy. Figure out what you got to do to get certified to do it. Like, and then I've really noticed since then, every patient tongue tie. Sleep.
Yes, you can't unsee it. It's bad.
Yeah, and the doctor that has been there for the beginning of time, she has always been huge on sleep apnea. Like that's in our notes. Like airway. She talks nonstop about it. We just met with a local hospital. Like the sleep lab came. We have a form we fill out. I even have like a tape measure to measure their neck, you know? And sometimes I'm thinking, okay, these people are here to get their teeth cleaned. Like, because some people, they just don't want to hear it, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
They don't. they don't want to hear you have sleep apnea, and they think CPAP, and are you calling me fat and overweight, and and so I try my best, but yeah, it runs me behind a lot. But I mean, I was telling Megan, I'm probably like the perfect candidate of a myofunction. I need myofunctional therapy myself.
We got
Most
you.
of us do. Most of
I
us
think
do.
everyone does to some
Mhm.
extent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
much, yeah. Unless you're like living in like a rural area in like a different country where you actually like chew your food all the way, like you're gonna need some help from us at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I want to go back to that kind of office culture thing that you were talking about. One thing I think that's really cool that I see a lot in your group is people will post their, and I think this comes back to even Kimmy's point of like what we put up with as employees, what we allow, right? Like how we allow office culture. So what I see a lot is, hey, I interviewed at this office, this office, this office, or I'm in this office. I possibly am looking at this office. What do you guys think are the benefits? Which one would you guys go with? And I love that feedback because I think that also with this many people, you can also shape office culture to say, hey, we don't put up with this anymore.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
we deserve lunches. We deserve the breaks that we want. We deserve to be paid or have benefits. Or like an office I worked at was like, we don't offer health benefits, but like here's $100 card a month that you can do to like buy healthy things. And I'm like, well, lucky for you, I'm 26, but like that's not
Yeah, exactly.
that's not going to pay for
that doesn't even
much.
cover like a emergency room visit. Like
no, that was like well, this could be for like your gym membership. This was again 2016, but I'm like,
oh yeah,
no, I'm like, I'm going to put like my Trader Joe's groceries on this once a month, but like not or like because and again it's just like what kind of culture, what should be happening in these like, offices. And so being able to be like, hey, ooh, red flag, that's actually not normal, that's not normal treatment, that's not okay, that's and you're like, oh, well, I had no idea because I just graduated school 2 months ago and this is all I got, right? So being able to see those things and review those things and kind of have the collective people be like, oh yeah, hey, here's what's okay, here's what's not okay, because sometimes you just don't know.
Yeah. I think in a lot of ways, that's a good thing about Rant is, I mean, not only are we, the group that we are, but I think by and large that we're really kind of an advocacy group for each other because there's a lot we don't know. And there's so much, I mean, just in you were a year in, Heather, I was a year in. So we've learned so much, I think, over, and I think one of the biggest successes of RDH Rant is when somebody says, hey, I quit my job. I stood up to my boss. I'm out of the op because of you guys and your support and your ideas. And, I stood up for myself to this patient or this toxic dentist I mean, those are my favorite stories. Yeah. Mama Judy,
she's retired.
She's retired. She was in the same office for like 26 years and she wanted to use the restroom and they told her no and she walked out.
What?
And
26 years.
Yeah. And she retired.
Imagine.
She was done.
Walked out. And she was like, where have you guys been my whole life?
Yeah.
Like, I would not have put up with that for 26 years.
No way.
Good for her.
So, yeah.
Yay for Mama Judy.
Yes, we love Mama Judy.
Use that bathroom in whatever time and freedom you need to, girl.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like,
and just like with you guys, I mean, you guys are out of the op. You're doing your own thing. Yeah. You're not. Yeah. I mean, I absolutely love that. I think that's great.
Honestly,
I know.
So scary to leave. And like Megan, I always joked with her, she was like my life coach because I would like have this idea of what I wanted. But then when I actually would think about what that would look like, paralyzing fear of leaving hygiene, leaving that steady income, that for sure days a week, my pitiful days off a year. At one point it was like, I think I got 7 or 8 days off, including sick days, no health insurance, no 401k. And, it was just like, so stressful to leave, but also it's like, I am going to just be depleted if I stay.
Yeah.
Like I just feel worn out. So it took a lot of like thought work and a lot of like inner work to give myself that permission to leave. But it is nice because now I can work virtually. I can work part-time from anywhere. Right now, my husband and I are like spending the summer on the beach, but last year we were in Europe. Like,
Awesome.
Nice.
and now I can live the dream versus, before we'll get into that workaholic rut where I'll work, 10 hours a day.
Mhm.
Not at all.
I'm jealous, but in the most happiest way for you guys. I'm
Good for you.
like, you guys are like our pioneer women of hygiene. Like,
Being able to create a community like that of 13,000 people, like, I mean,
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and you have to care about people to want to keep doing it. I mean, you care about the hygienist, right? I mean, you don't have to care about your patients. I mean, technically you do.
No, I do.
Technically you do.
No, I'm just playing.
But you know what I mean? Like you obviously care enough about other people, and you care enough about our profession, and you care enough about those who are in it to create that support. And I think that's so cool and so beautiful. So
Don't be a doormat.
Well, thank you.
That's it.
Don't be a doormat. We need that t-shirt too. We've got a whole merch line coming out in our crossover podcast.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, it's true, right? So, oh gosh. Okay. Well, obviously people, if they want to find you, they can look up RDH Rant with their dental hygiene license on Facebook.
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok if it's still around. Instagram is open to anybody.
Mhm.
Now Facebook, you do have to be a hygienist to join.
Yeah.
TikTok's
TikTok's temporarily disabled, but I'm going to bring it back up probably for the next week or two.
And then we have a once a month guest RDH Rant takeover on A Tale of Two Hygienists.
Yeah. So if you just any like Spotify, iTunes, wherever podcast app you use, just search RDH Rant and you'll find our podcast. It's really actually funny and irreverent and sometimes kind of filthy and
a lot of bleeps.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, they just did a would you rather.
Yeah.
Oh, nope. I was like, yeah. Would you rather? No, I just rather quit. Thank you.
Exactly. I don't do any of that.
I'm just gonna Mama Judy and just walk on out.
Yeah.
And of course, if you guys want to find Kimmy and I, you can find me at NWMFT. You can find Kimmy at Mouth Muscle Memory. You can find us both at the Munch Bunch podcast. And if you guys want to find us in person, we are hosting the Munch Bunch Burnout and Wellness Retreat in the Dominican Republic. And yes, if you guys want to learn more about the retreat, of course, you can DM us, catch us in the Dominican Republic. We will be there to help battle through that burnout and help you take that next steps in your business, your careers. So we're not keeping the secrets to ourselves, right? Like if we're successful, the rest of you can be too. So, all right, you guys. Well, thank you so much again for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. That was awesome.
Yes, and we will, catch you in the rant.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thanks.
Bye.
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 We have a special offer for our Munch Bunch listeners. To book a virtual consult with Megan, she's offering a discount of $25 off. Just email her, Megan, at nwmyofunctionaltherapy.com or through her website, www.orofacial-myology.com. To book a virtual consult with Kimmy for the $25 off, email her mouthmusclememory@outlook.com or through the website www.mouthmusclememory.com.